Welcome to this video that will explain to you the basics of Machiavillain. Machiavillain is a top-down builder game that has its main focus on surviving as long as possible by eating your victims. Don't worry, it's all just for fun. We will go over 5 different basics, namely the controls, the monsters, buildings, victims, and finally the threats. First off, the basic controls. In order to pan around the map, use your WASD keys or simply point your mouse to any edge of the screen. To zoom in and out of the world, use your scroll wheel. And last but not least, you can use the fast forward and play pause buttons on the top right corner of the screen to speed up or pause the game. You can also pause the game using the spacebar. As mentioned earlier, the core of this game are your monsters. You can select every individual monster by pressing the left mouse button, or you can select multiple monsters by clicking and dragging a selection square around the monsters. After you've selected the monsters, you can give them orders. This is done by simply clicking the right mouse button. If there are multiple orders possible, you can select which one is applicable. For example, I can right click here and then left click on Go To tell my monsters to move here. But I could also click on Collect Plants if I wanted my monsters to collect these plants. It is also very important to know what kind of monster you are dealing with. Simply select a monster and you can see what kind of food they eat, how loyal they are, and what their traits are. Since your monsters have a very lazy nature, you will need to tell them what to do. This is done by assigning different jobs to your monsters. Simply click on the jobs icon and assign different jobs. The amount of stars shown at a job shows you how well a monster can perform that job. On the left you can see how many jobs can be assigned at once to a monster. You can also click on the little arrows on the top row to change the priority of jobs. After you've assigned your monsters different jobs, it's time to tell them where and how to complete this job. For this example, I have assigned the monsters to chop wood. I will now click on the resources button and tell my monsters which trees to chop. The first step into luring your victims is to gather resources and start putting down some buildings. Like mentioned before, you can assign a monster to gather wood or other resources. Once you have enough resources, you can start building walls. Simply click the construction tab and select the walls you want to build. For this example, we are going to build a wooden shed. Make sure to construct 4 walls so that the room is closed off. Oh, and don't forget the door. Last but not least, your room will need a floor. Simply select the floor you want and drag over the area that needs floorboards. Now assign a monster to construct your building. Again, this can be simply done by clicking the jobs icon and this time assigning a monster with the hammer icon. Now that the building is constructed, we need to give it a purpose. Simply select one of the categories from the construction menu and then select whatever workstation you want to add. For this example, we will turn this room into a home office. I can do this by simply clicking the home office category and selecting the writing desk. Now that I've placed the writing desk, a monster will go out and start constructing it. Again, I can fast forward the time by using the buttons in the top right corner of the screen to make the construction go a little bit faster. Now that the writing desk is constructed, I turned this room into a home office. Like mentioned before, the main goal of Machiavillain is to lure victims to your woods and then to eat them. This is done by using an ad campaign. The ad campaign tactic is very simple. One of your monsters writes letters in which we state that our victims have won various prizes that need to be claimed in person at our mansion. This will lure the victims to our woods. Now that you know how the ad campaign works, I will show you how to establish it. The writing desk that we placed earlier can be operated by a monster. So first, we assign a monster to write letters at the desk. Remember, the amount of stars at this job indicates how fast the monster is at writing letters. So be sure to assign the monster with the most stars at the envelope icon. Now that we've assigned a monster to write letters, we can click on the writing desk to tell the monster how many letters he needs to write. After we have done this, the monster will now start to write these letters. The very first ad that we can select is the porcelain dinnerware set. This will require for us to write 10 letters. As soon as we've gathered those 10 letters, we can send out this first false ad. Every 24 in-game hours, the mailman will come by to collect your letters. This means that you'll have to make sure you have enough letters within that time or your ad will not be sent out. Now that our first false ad is sent out, different victims will start coming to the woods. Make sure to hide your monsters in a different room so that they won't scare off the victims when they arrive. Again, we can use the fast forward button in the top right corner of the screen to speed up time while we wait for the victims to arrive. As you can see, the victims have arrived and we order our monsters to attack the different victims. This is done by selecting the victims and clicking on Attack. Now that all the victims are dead, we need a monster to prepare the food. Simply click the jobs icon and then select the job with the chef's head icon to assign a monster to prepare the food. Again, check the number of stars to see which monster is best equipped for this job. The preparation of food is done in a room with a butcher's table. This can be constructed in the same manner that we constructed the home office, the only difference being now that we will put down a butcher's table instead of a writing desk. Besides having to feed your monsters in order to survive, there's also a fair amount of different threats in the world. First of all, there's different types of hostile creatures, like radioactive spiders. These will attack your monsters on sight. However, a way more dangerous threat is mankind. On the top right corner of the screen, you can see a suspicion meter. This meter will fill up when you kill a victim, or even worse, when a victim escapes. You can lower the meter by keeping the victims happy. This can be done by distracting them with nice furniture or having lights in your buildings. When the meter fills up, however, humans will come to the woods and try to kill your monsters. The moment all your monsters are dead, it's game over. As you progress in the game, more monsters will want to join your team and thus the demand for food will go up. In order to keep progressing, it is necessary to discover new and more effective ways of writing letters and luring more and more victims to your mansion. This can be done by placing laboratories and research stations. That sums up the basics of Machiavillain. Of course, there's much more to explore, but you'll have to figure that out by yourself. We hope you enjoy the game.